We can start. Welcome everyone for this session or this series of the DTS seminar, Digital Trust and Security Seminars. I'm delighted to have Gunesh as our guest speaker today. But before introducing him, I need to go through some housekeeping rules. So apparently it's very important that you know where the toilets are. So if you go out on the left side, you go at the corner. There's also a photo in the next slide. There are no fire alarms planned for today during the seminar. So if we do hear some fire alarms, we need to evacuate the building using the closest exit, which is here on the right side, one door and then another one. And then we need to assemble at the car park. And I'm sure my colleagues will lead us to there. There will be also pictures being taken. Some photographs will be taken today at the session. So if you do not want to be photographed, please speak to Kitty. She will make sure that she deletes all the photos where you appear. And a risk assessment is also available on request. This is where the toilets are. So yeah, as I said, I'm delighted to have Gunesh with us. I've known him for the last 10 years. I met him in 2015 at University of Leuven, where he was finishing your PhD. And even then, his publications were top. So he published in top venues. He made really good impact. He influenced standards. He won some awards. But I'll let him introduce himself a bit later. And before actually handing over to him, I want to say a few words about us. So we are part of Digital Futures. That's a network of more than 1,700 interdisciplinary researchers, bringing together different expertise from all over the universities. So the idea that we tackle really important research problem, and we do that collectively. So digital trust and security is actually one of the 13 cross-cutting capabilities. It is, well, the home of this digital trust and security team is actually the Center for Digital Trust and Society, which has 6 clusters: advanced mathematics, democracy and trust, digital technologies and crime, privacy and trust, trust in digital systems, and workplace organizational security. So in total, we are probably above 100 academics, all working from different disciplines, working under the digital trust and security team. I'm also the Trusted Digital Systems cluster lead, which mainly composes of academics from computer science. I'm going to hand over to Gunesh, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mustafa, for your introduction. Hi, everyone. As Mustafa said, my name is Gunesh. I'm coming from the Netherlands here by train. And so I'm part of the digital security group there, but also part of the interdisciplinary center. So I'm guessing the audience is also not just computer science, but different disciplines. So very nice to hear that. So like Mustafa said, we intersected in Leuven with him, and then I also did a postdoc in the US, and currently I'm running a project. I will start a project on setting up a privacy observatory. So this is not very maybe helpful. Let me give you an example of my work. So for example, 2 years ago, 3 years ago now, we did a study of how when you go online on websites, when you just enter your email address or your password, this is collected even before you hit submit. And this was received the CNIL INRIA Award for Privacy Protection. So this CNIL is French Data Protection Authority. And we have collaborated with my colleagues in Princeton University. I don't know if you know of the concept dark patterns or deceptive patterns. So we did a study of this at a large scale. And also I helped, for example, reporter uncover location tracking by Google, even if you do not consent to it. which resulted in Google paying almost $500 million settlement fees. So this is just an example of the research that I do. But today's subject is advertisements. So advertisements is, big business, like several $100 billion market, just the online advertisements, and all the big tech companies like Meta and Google basically had their more than 80–90% of their income thanks to advertisements. So there are many ways to do advertisements. You can target ads based on someone's profile or behavior, your clicks, your location, your attributes, what you want to buy, versus what we call contextual advertisements. This is based on, for example, just the website you visit rather than you yourself, so it's less privacy invasive. But there are many different ways as well, but just to keep in mind that there are ways of doing that. So what's the problem with ads? Okay, so this is first a $1 trillion market apparently as of last year. So not good for the economy maybe. So there's a very active ecosystem of hundreds of companies. But if you think this is what is it, too many companies? So this was now 14 years ago. The current ecosystem looks more like this. Can you even read any of these? No. So it's really a big business, ecosystem industry. But there are problems. One is that this ad targeting ecosystem requires a lot of data about you, your profile, your activities, interests, and this results in big data silos that are being collected and also sold. So what you see here is a data marketplace where you as a business can go and buy data about users. For example, this one is specifically about location trace of users. As you have your mobile phone, go to shopping, just open an app, then the app has an advertisement, maybe you don't even see the advertisement, collects your precise location, sends to a data broker that you don't know about, so then all your location trails is captured and being sold online, unfortunately. So there's a secondary effect of, these ads require a lot of data to be collected, and this is, of course, a massive privacy invasion at scale. Also had national security implications, etc. There is also, from this more security standpoint, advertisements is great vector or means for distributing malware. If you have some, malicious intent to infect people's computers, how are you going to get the malware to them? People used dropping USB sticks to car parks, but this has very limited reach, right? You can just run ads. What's better? So, for example, this is just 2 years ago, but this has been going on for a while. Malicious actors running advertisements for software that people search often. For example, media players or a zip software. So as you search, for example, let's say this software for managing streams or streaming, like OBS, doesn't matter. You search on Google, and the first link is to a malware site. Google does not address this for a long time. We have seen many examples of this. In this particular case, the person infected has a nickname called NFT God. He was apparently a crypto billionaire, lost all of his savings because he clicked this link and installed the malware. Yes. We don't know how much money, but so you can read this. It's all online. So this person just by clicking the wrong link infected, and the malware stole his private keys and just emptied their account. But this is also used for other purposes, like stealing people's passwords, banking passwords, etc. Okay, but maybe you can say, okay, what are the other problems? So we also seen, for example, a ransomware becoming a big security nightmare for enterprises, for hospitals, right? I mean, like your expert says, all hospitals one day will get infected, so just be ready. It's not a like matter of if, just matter of when. Terrible outlook, but you can see because you send an email to an employee, they click a link, and then like all institutions got compromised. I mean, we have some measures against that, but still, this is very scary attack vector. And lately, we've been seeing malicious advertisements used to distribute ransomware. So advertisements as a step into leading to ransomware attacks in the latest iterations. Again, because advertisements is a great way to, okay, market your product, your services, but also reach out people that you target for malicious intent as well. So today's talk is about what if this target of these ads are children? And what kind of ads children see online, specifically on websites that they might visit. We know from research, there's a lot of research on how advertisements affect children, and there's like a link between ads from the food industry and like increase of obesity. We know, especially lately, thanks to the influencers on social media, there's like an increasing, children using skincare products and then getting really severe allergies because the skincare products are for adults, not for their, more sensitive skins. So this is from a Dutch influencer, but it's the same thing. So they're just advertising, marketing this makeup products. All big advertisement companies, like here you see Google's policies, have specific policies for what kind of ads you can show to children. There is a list of, so this is for example a part of the categories that you can advertise otherwise, but not to children. So there's specific categories of you cannot, for example, advertise astrology ads or like alcohol or recreational drugs. I guess this is obvious, but like for example, eat and cosmetics also should not be possible to advertise. So there are some specific policies about what kind of ads you can show to children using, for example, Google, but also other big advertisers. So we wanted to see in this research what kind of inappropriate advertisements are shown to children, because we know from some projects that they exist on the web. But also DSA, this is Digital Services Act. Who here is familiar with Digital Services Act or DSA? Okay. So it's a new European law, really wide-ranging, like a regulation. There is a specific part of it that regulates, that says basically you cannot show targeted advertisements to children, more or less. Correct me if I'm wrong. So there's always a more specific way to. But so DSA says, okay, don't target ads to children's, profile. No targeted ads. Also, Digital Services Act requires what we call very large online platforms, VLOPs. These are platforms with, I think, more than 55 million monthly active users in the EU. So like Google, Amazon, TikTok. They, for example, need to publish their advertisements. So this is for ad transparency. Overall, so the idea is to basically see what kind of ads are shown to children, but also whether they are proper, improper or not, and whether they are targeted or not. Because again, this is disallowed by the Digital Services Act, which is now in effect. But when we did the study, it was just about to come into effect. The first problem we had was, okay, we want to see which websites children visit, but there's no such list. You can go and find a list of, let's say, search engines or social media, but well, there's no list of websites that are targeted to children. So just creating this list, building this list was a challenge in itself. In the end, we used some combination of machine learning and existing data sets to build such a list ourselves. Starting from millions of pages visited by some Google Chrome users. So like big list of websites, we categorize them using an external API, but this was not very reliable. So we manually reviewed them and basically take only the really children's websites. There was also some existing lists, but they were very limited and outdated. These are existing lists of safe website for your children. So like approved by some sort of non-governmental entity like KidSafe or Common Sense. So basically using this like very limited data, we built a classifier, machine learning classifier, and classify these websites that are coming from a very large, like billions of pages long data set called Common Crawl. So build a classifier, apply it to a very large list of websites, and also do another manual review at the end to build the final list, which was about 2,000 websites. Okay. This took months to do. This was pre-ChatGPT. After ChatGPT came on, I asked my PhD student to, hey, why don't you just ask it to classify? And the results were more or less similar. So I don't know if it's a waste of time, but I still think this was useful because this is a very lightweight model, what we see here. And it's also very nicely multilingual. So if you have a training set in, say, like English and French and Spanish, you train the model, then it classifies languages that are not in the training set. So that was pretty cool. Again, this is like a multilingual model, so it can, again, could classify websites in language that we don't know about. Please.
One of the questions I have is about the Common Crawl dataset.
Yes.
Obviously, websites can choose to opt out themselves using robust.talk text. So what if a website was excluded in the Common Crawl dataset and however has indeed a, let's say, research interest for us?
Yeah. So what if they were, so the website can use this robots.txt files to say, hey, I don't want to be crawled, I don't want to be included in your crawls, and so they may not appear in the Common Crawl dataset. So we may miss some websites, right? True. I mean, there is nothing that we can do about that, other than, for example, us going and crawling all this. Again, this is like 4 or 5 billion different websites, which will be very hard. So yeah, that's one of the limitations of the study. So meaning we, again, obtained a list of 2,000 children websites. That's probably tens of thousands of websites. So we try to optimize for, or like focus on more popular websites that are more likely to be visited by people. But definitely website could opt out from this data set and may not appear in us data set. So yeah, but so we are here actually studying more the advertisement networks. For example, like Google and some others. And even if we miss a few websites, we'll probably cover almost all ad networks because they will appear on other websites. But of course, depending on the study, so this blind spot could be more important, more crucial, and maybe you may want to crawl them yourself, etc. So the crawling process was done based on using a crawler that we took and modified. It's called radar collector. It doesn't matter. So we just visited all these websites and then collected all the network traffic, cookies, and then screenshots of these websites. But also as we crawl, so the crawler is like a browser automated, goes to the website, scrolls down, because unless you scroll down, some ads will not appear. So they are like below fold. And then it will scroll down and it will scroll up And while doing that, we took the screenshots of what's happening on the screen, but also we captured a video of this. So as if like you are screen capturing, using the crawler itself, so I think it was the first time. That was very useful to, for example, inspect animated or video ads that you would otherwise miss some videos. Okay, so as I said, one of the goals was to find what ads, whether this website show targeted ads to children or not. Again, sort of banned by the DSA. And the way we detect whether an ad is targeted to your profile or not is we just visited this ad transparency interface. So on most of the ads you see, so there is this triangle icon. Do you recognize that? Mm-hmm. So do you know? Does anyone know what it is? This triangle icon.
I think it's the sign of Google's AdSense.
Yeah. So it's not actually. It doesn't belong to Google. It's more like a industry-wide effort for ad transparency. It's called ad choice or ad choices. Sorry. So the idea is that when you click on it, you will see why you see this ad. Again, so I don't know if, has anyone visited the interface like this, explaining why you are seeing an ad, whether it's targeted to you or not? Has anyone? Yeah, I think a few. So the ad may be targeted based on, for example, the website you are reading, but also Google's estimation of your interest. So this is then a targeted ad based on your interest, whereas a non-targeted ad could be, so then the explanation will be ad personalization is off, and Google showed this based on time of the day or the website you visit, so more contextual factors. So again, the crawler, this automated browser, visits this interface, scrapes this text, records it, and we use this basically disclosures to identify targeted versus non-targeted ad. So Google, this specific interface is from Google, but other ad providers also have similar ones. And the way for websites to mark them as, as child-directed is, so there is a Google interface. So if you're a website owner, if you are running a child-targeted website, you can tell Google that, hey, my website is for children, don't show any targeted ads there. So we visited around 5 pages for each website using this crawl, and we did it from different vantage points to be able to compare. So this included New York City, San Francisco, London, Frankfurt, Amsterdam. So from these 5 locations we did desktop crawls, and we did 2 extra mobile browser crawls from New York City and Frankfurt. So compare US versus EU, whether for example, there are differences maybe due to regulation or maybe other factors. But most of the time, the crawl was successfully done. So overall, we scraped 70,000 advertisements, and from 800 of these 2,000 websites. So almost 40% of the websites, actually 36%, contained one or more ads. And 27, more than a quarter of these websites included a targeted ad. If we look into individual ads, so more than 70% were targeted. So one potentially result that may feel a bit good, make us feel good is we saw more targeted ads in low popularity websites. So the more popular the website is, they are more likely to turn off personalization or ad targeting. So maybe they are worried about regulatory action or something like this. But overall, we see more popular websites using non-targeted ads more often. So one of the nice thing about this ad transparency interface is that you also see the advertiser's identity there. Because otherwise, when you go online and see some ads, and they may be, sometimes it's very obvious this ad is coming from, let's say, McDonald's, but otherwise it's very not clear, like who is showing you this ad, and you may want to know that. So again, this ad disclosure interface where you see why this ad is shown to you, you can also see what's the advertiser behind this ad. In most cases, not all. So in our data of ads, we found advertisers from locations such as Netherlands, Cyprus, UK, USA, but also United Arab Emirates, Hong Kong, Israel, showing ads to potentially children browsing from these vantage points I showed before. But overall, you can target someone or children across the world with this nice digital ad ecosystem, right? And the most ads, so if you look into the companies with most ads, advertisers with most ads, they were really a very low quality. For example, some of them would show you some search results that are really they look like very old and outdated and low quality search engine. Others will be workout and weight loss ads, IQ tests. I'll show you some examples, but they are really not, they are basically scammy surveys. Okay, so next, we have the advertisements which contain some images, sometimes some text. How to find what we call these improper ads in this content. Again, this is tens of thousands of advertisements. It's like a needle in the haystack problem. So first, we limited ourselves to just 3 kinds of, let's say, improper ads. Dating. I guess you can all agree that children probably shouldn't be seeing dating ads, unless I'm missing a good reason. Please raise your hand. Mental health ads. Again, these are sometimes may be useful to some, but otherwise could be, I think, more harmful. Again, these are most of the time in the ad network's own policies, not allowed at all. If you go to Google ad policies, you should not see display children, this kind of things. But also weight loss, because body image is big issue now with Instagram and then if you follow, for example, the Facebook leaks. So the detrimental effect on children is really grave. So we want to also incorporate that. So whether we see any kind of weight loss ads targeted to children. And please.
Are these basically all 3 categories other than racy ads? Because for children, sometimes there are other factors that is also impacting. For example, weight loss might be categorized as let's say, beauty. For example, you have just mentioned about children purchasing beauty products that has caused harm to their skin. So is this list of categorization going to expand a little bit more to cover, let's say, what's already being reported in the news?
So in our case, no. So we wanted to really have clear defined scopes at the expense of leaving out some really harmful ads. The reason is, like all classification problems, there is always some gray area. Where does this fall to? And this, having this very clear, narrow focus helped us with this, with classification. So all the other categories of potentially harmful or improper ads, I think they should be investigated. So they are not less harmful than these, but we just we just needed to pick some scope and go with it. Yeah. Please.
Yeah, so there was a question I wanted to ask when you were talking about the crawlers. So, so I discovered that most of these advertisers, so they don't just give you the adverts, maybe based just on your cookies. They tend to build a profile of whoever is visiting over multiple pages, over multiple browsers and all that. So did the crawler, when you use, did it consider that, or you just went to that site that had first grade, and that's just all you used to build it?
Very good question. So when you need to look at, let's say, measure or study targeted advertisements, should you impersonate a person or a user that has a history of, his browsing history or interest? So that's like a decision we need to make because it's much more difficult to do that. Like basically what we sometimes called warm-up crawls. So you warm up a profile and use that in the crawls of these many websites. Or which website you need to use, etc. is the challenge. So we basically took a shortcut. So this like interface tells us whether the ad is personalized or not, regardless of your profile, regardless of the visitor's profile. So this was a kind of shortcut, like a nice sort of oracle that allowed us to not have to build these profiles. That means, so we looked to the website as if like a fresh user. I just open my browser, clean, start from scratch. So these are the ads that I will see. Or if you, for example, clear your browsing history or cookies, you will look like a person like this. So it's not totally impossible, but it's different than a user with a history, right? So this will definitely affect the ads we receive, right? So, but for us, what we want to see is whether children could see any improper ads or not, regardless of their profile history. Because what you expect is in the ad networks, there are some measures to not show improper ads to children, regardless of their profile. Because they should say, okay, this is a children's website. Like, for example, this is a math fun worksheets website that are clearly targeted children. Google should have some filters or exclusion, like a process in place to filter out these improper ads. But as you will see, something goes wrong in the process, and we still see some improper ads. So your question is definitely pertinent. So this still shows that there are some improper ads, and this was enough for us to show there's a problem in the system. Okay, thank you. Any other question? Okay, so I was explaining this. The pipeline for detecting the ads. So this is our main, given an ad content, how do we automatically analyze it? So we went through different iterations, but in the end we landed on using a combination of image processing or image-based classification and optical character recognition, OCR, and then more like text-based classification or simulation. Like first, I was saying, so we picked three categories of improper ads: dating, mental health, and then weight loss. But also we wanted to detect this racy or somewhat racy advertisements with visually inappropriate. Definitions of this, etc. So we have a lot of like disclaimers on what this means, etc. in the paper. But so this takes the input to this, all this pipeline is ad images that we use this external cloud-based classification system from Google. Maybe if we do this study right now, we'll probably do something local because now the models are much more powerful. But this Google has a specific API that you can use. Basically, you send images, and it tells you whether they are racy or not. So this API is used by, I think, many platforms for finding, like, say, improper content. Let's say you are running a social network, and you want to flag maybe offensive images. So you can just send them to Google. Google tells you, okay, this is very likely racy. So used for probably content moderation at scale. So we use that API. Basically, we use free credits. We didn't pay anything to Google. Thank you. So again, if you do this study right now, I would prefer something maybe more local. So we take 8 images, send them to Google Vision API that returns this is racy or not. And then we also apply optical character recognition, OCR. And then instead of classifying these images, we did something much more simpler. We basically measured the semantic similarity of the text in the images by splitting them into like small paragraphs or sentences with our search terms. Meaning, at one comparison based on semantic similarity, at one side we have, say, mental health, and on the other side the text from the advertisements OCR, optical recognition. And this is again multilingual and semantic, meaning even if the words don't match, you still have a very high similarity. Even if the languages are different, you still have very high similarity. Like it works super well, and this model is like very lightweight, small model. This paraphrase multilingual MPNet-based V3 is from Microsoft. Doesn't matter. Worked very well for us. But still, we did not want to rely on automated machine learning classification. They make crazy mistakes. We don't want to, present this as results. So we always in this paper have a human in the loop, going through painstakingly, going through the results of the classifier to say, okay, this is false positive, this is really not a match, or not. So I definitely recommend that because, again, there are sometimes huge mistakes. After this process, and we basically manually verified again these results up to some point, like around 1,000 of them. So we found many improper ads or ads falling into dating, mental health, weight loss, and raciness categories. So while doing this racy manual labeling for racy or somewhat racy categories, racy category, our colleague who is labeling said we probably need a somewhat racy category in the end. We introduced that, but overall, across all vantage points, a bit less in the, for example, in the Frankfurt crawl. So we see all kind of dating, mental health, weight loss ads and the racy ads. So now I'm going to show you some screenshots of these ads, and this is, I think, potentially not safe for work content. So if you are sensitive to images that are somewhat disturbing, ugly, look away. So these are all like ads we found on children's websites. Again, on the top we found this panel of products from Alibaba, Chinese e-commerce giant. And so these are like some semi-transparent underwear. This rabbit meat, very weird products, very weird. And this, like, if you already have the stomach, look at the PDF because you cannot see the details. But this is apparently a CPR baby model, but like very realistic. Reproductive organ, very weird. So like they're all like images like what? So like it's very disturbing, but at the same time really captures your attention. Not sure if it's intentional or not. So this was the first one. Alibaba ads with interestingly disturbing or visually, distressing content. B. So next one with this like, ice cream. It's the largest sex toy shop in Germany. Again, we found ads for this in the children's website, ice.de. And also, like you can see, like for the children, this like a picture of ice cream made very appealing, but it's really not for ice cream. Again, this is sex toy shop. So in C, we see these IQ tests. These are surveys or tests that you start, solving. Solve, good. Until the last point, you don't get your score until you pay, I don't know, £20. But they basically hold your ransom to say, hey, like you did very well, maybe not, but like in order to see the result until the very last moment, there is no mention of paying or something. But so at the very last step, they ask you to pay. Same for this like MIK tests. So they are all like this like a sort of half scam, semi-scam websites of surveys. Then we have this like a dating websites, meet your singles, or like a dating.com, find your perfect match. Again, you probably don't want this. And some of these like include some images of like girls you'll be chatting reportedly. We have on the top right, so what kind of like mental health ads we captured. For example, this says, take a depression test. Next to coloring books for kids. Very interesting mix. But these are like a family of ads, so we have hundreds of ads that look like the one on the top right. What else? We have vibrator ads. Then we have ads of really intentionally disturbing images like this, like wands and like kind of terrible images. And these were also all coming from the same company. This like a purple one. And also these image advertisements of like workout and weight loss, etc. So they're all like most of them were coming from the same company. So this is just a sample, but we just want to show you like diversity of the ads. So if you want to see them in context, so this is for example a website called Woo Junior for very obviously targeted to kids. It's called Kids Activities. And we have here an ad in Dutch, because we visit this website from the Netherlands. It says, ga nooit meer alleen naar bed. That means never go to bed alone. I'm guessing that's not for kids, like, but yeah, so this is Flirt Finder website. In this, like, very obviously kids targeted to kids website. And this is, I guess, self-explanatory. So next to, for example, kindergarten or biomedical or curriculum, so like how to read these words or word root, like we have man's driving force and blue pill for, that. So something is going wrong here. This test. Again, these are like, you basically disclose so much personal data, only to find out you have to pay to get the result of the very questionable test of, sexual orientation. Okay, so this was more like improper ads. Now switching to, so I also over time, but I'll like wrap up very soon, to more like measurement of tracking. So we, capture the network requests that are made during visits to these websites, and look up block lists or tracking lists to see what kind of tracker companies are embedded on this website. And in, for example, this crawl from the New York City vantage point, we found some websites like MedFun Worksheets have 161 distinct tracker companies. This is not number of requests or packets or anything. These are like 160 different companies who are basically observing your visit as you visit this website. And woojunior.com, almost like 150 different companies. And in Europe, so the FRA, again, this is a visit from Frankfurt. So you see like a fever tracking activities, fever trackers, but still a lot. So this is like, for example, Bluesky, we have almost 100 different entities, like tracker companies present. if you look at like what third-party tracker companies are observing these visits on children's websites, we found, very like known companies like Google and Facebook leading the way. For example, in Frankfurt Crawl, in the crawl from the United States, we have again like Google, but also Microsoft, also Facebook, basically present on these websites that you visit. Remember, we have 2,000 or so websites, so Google is present almost like 85% of them, basically observing visits. And this is like very common whenever you do like a web privacy measurement, these companies show up at the top 10. So this is not different than the others. And also another finding is that whenever there is some advertisements on the website, you have many more trackers, which just makes sense. So this is a comparison of website with ads and without ads, and from different vantage points. We shared our results with 5 ad companies that show these inappropriate ads and asked them, hey, there's something wrong here. What do you think? So 3 responded, and one of the companies wanted to have a call with us, so we had a call with them. They explained what went wrong, which was basically, so there are like 2 protections. One is that websites tell the advertiser, hey, I'm a children's website. And also advertisers try to classify websites, oh, look at this looks like a children's website, so let me not show improper ads. They said in the example we found, both of these protections sort of failed. So these are like probably machine learning classifiers that have some blind spots you can see. And the another company told us that they started an investigation and that was all. So just to summarize, and also to make time for some Q&A. So we did this empirical measurement on 2,000 or so children's websites and found tracking on almost 90% of them, advertisements on 36% of them, and targeted ads on more than a quarter of them, which again should not be possible, should be disallowed. We found hundreds of improper ads on dating, mental health, and including race content. And these hundreds, don't let it deceive you, because we could probably find many, many more, but the manual verification step, the human verification, we had to stop somewhere. This was like, we said, okay, let's review 1,000 ads from each category and stop there. So if we reviewed more, we'll probably found more improper ads. The point was to show there is something wrong in the pipeline of this ad ecosystem, and I think we did it enough. Again, so what are takeaways? So this online ad ecosystem is huge and it's a bit obscure. This requires more oversight, and this digital service stack gives an opportunity because there are some transparency requirements. Existing systems for filtering out have shortcomings, but this machine learning based empirical approach could at least give some view into what's going wrong in this. And these are really methods that you can perform or conduct with limited resources. You don't need a GPU cluster to do this. And so I also want to thank, so this is the first author of this study, my PhD student Zahra, presenting this work in the French Data Protection Authority. And we have a website, and all our source code, program source code is in the open, shared on GitHub. Feel free to check it out. And if you have any questions, I'll be able to take them.
Questions?
One of the things that I've noticed in your sheet, in your table describing about the ads and improper ads you found, is that it appears that mobile ads seems to have larger issues compared to desktop. Do you have? Are there any example or possible reasons that was discovered?
That's a good question. So let me try to pull this one. So here, for example, let's say dating apps, we see, you know, all like single digits almost, and then, you know, jump to like a 2 tens here, and same for the other categories. Of course, first, like whether this is a statistically significant difference, I'm not sure, but it looks like there's a, you know, apparent difference. So one explanation was that some of these, for example, weight loss advertisements were for a mobile app to lose weight. And you know, we can advertise for a mobile app on desktop websites as well, but it makes more sense to advertise on mobile websites so the user can click and install this app immediately. So that was one of the reasons, for example. So that some of these, for example, dating apps were for some, again, mobile apps that are shady mobile apps. And again, it would make more sense for them to advertise on mobile websites.
So during your research, did you try to, because some of these websites that offer even non-targeted ads, they do have some parameters they consider. For example, they can consider the country, you can consider the type of website you're visiting.
Mm-hmm.
So did you try to see the effect of the country the person is visiting from? For example, most of these ads feel that if the visitor is coming from, let's say, countries like US, UK, they are most likely to purchase whatever product. So do you try to?
Yeah, very good point. So targeted versus non-targeted. So improper ads, I'm not sure if there was a big difference, but so to be honest, like interestingly, I don't have the results for targeted ads here. Was there any? I think like we had fewer targeted ads in the crawls from Europe, but we didn't have. So still, like this is more, which I don't like, of course. Still, Europe and US. We don't have advantage from, let's say, Asia, Africa, or any kind of like other, let's say, vantage point that unfortunately left out in this kind of studies. So like for example, in a recent study, we added the vantage point from Asia, which didn't change the result much for that particular study. But the quick answer is I don't know. If, for example, measured from a, let's say, less wealthy country, would the results be different?
So what I'm asking is, so when you were so your crawlers definitely will have to work with an IP.
Sure.
And definitely IP would be the location you are, which maybe in your case Netherlands.
No, so this so they would be from this location. So the crawler software was run from a data center at this cities actually. Yeah. So they will appear like New York City, San Francisco, London, Frankfurt, Amsterdam, because like, it's easy to find data centers. Or so we basically run some, use some cloud providers to run our crawler software from, which has its own limitations because the advertiser may say, "Oh, this is coming from a cloud server,
data center,
so then let me not show ads." But then we do a lot to impersonate a real user. So look like a real browser, and that's why actually we could find like 70,000 advertisements. So these are all, like most of them come from Google, meaning we basically bypass Google's anti-bot protection measures. Because like, my own research is about what's called browser fingerprinting. So this is like you can basically check different properties of the browser to detect whether it's automated or not. So we do a lot to basically impersonate a real browser, which is a bit costlier, but still we wanted quality of data. There are very limited cases, very few cases where we had a bot protection screen. So yes, IP source, all that may affect the results, so this is just based on this vantage point.
Thank you, Ganesh. That was a really interesting talk. I have the $1 million question. Do you have a solution for this problem?
I don't know.
What would you do, like from a technical perspective?
In fact, it's a related question. I don't have the experience myself, but from time to time, not recently, they actually give an option for parental control.
Yes.
So what is that about, and is it effective?
Okay. Google after we complete the study, maybe to basically preempt the DSA investigations, introduced a measure in Chrome browser. If you're a Chrome user, which is 70% of the humanity, if you don't log into your Google account, which most people do, but if you don't, then they say, oh, we cannot determine your age. Then we turn off all personalized ads to make sure. So that's very new. That's happened after the study. So I'm not saying this is because of that, because I think they were concurrent. But so now, if you are not logged into your Google account in the Chrome browser, which involves stating your age or the age range, they say, okay, we don't know your age, you are not logged in, so we are turning off personalized ads for you. So that's something new. But non-personalized ads may contain even more improper ads. Because these are really some of them low-quality ads that may appear more if you don't have a browsing history. So I'm not sure if this will solve the improper ads problem. It may solve the targeted ads problem. For end users, easy solution, use an ad blocker, if you can. Like, also for security, like these ads distributing malware, they're everywhere. I'm sorry, but like until Google or the other way try to solve it, I think it's like ethically just justifiable to suggest people to use ad blockers so they're not, they don't fall for victim to these really devastating attacks. For the ad industry in general, so they try to, of course, minimize this problem, but it's so huge. How many millions of ads come into circulation every day? I'm sure there are some, really cutting-edge machine learning classifiers to detect offensive content and filter them out. But even if you have like tiny bit of false negative, tiny bit of misses, like say 0.1, that still means thousands of ads go into circulation. And what we know from at least the reports on the story, like the news on the story, is that they don't really invest a lot on this. Meaning, like Facebook, for example, was found to circulate crypto scam ads, all kind of scam ads at huge scale. Every time, like this shouldn't be keeping happening. I mean, there should be some. This is one of like most sophisticated tech companies in the world, but it's not in their interest to overblock this offensive ad. So overall, I'm a bit pessimistic. For an end user, I say, hey, use an ad blocker. And this kind of regulation to increase transparency, I think is very helpful. And as researchers, we should take advantage of them. Yeah, but not very optimistic that this will be solved tomorrow.
But it's a good answer, thanks.
So following on from that recommendation about using ad blocker, have you done any sort of work in terms of impact on making a recommendation like that? Like, how many, say, of our schools are definitely using ad blockers on mobile devices, where this gentleman raised that there seemed to be more potentially of an issue compared to at the workstation? Like, practically, how does that translate to protecting our children on the ground, so to speak? Or is that like a next step, or is that some sort of interdisciplinary study? Because I'm interested, when some of those images that you showed, a 7 or 8 year old sees that by accident, that can have big consequences. So how do we kind of protect our next generation? We're seeing more issues around mental health, low self-esteem, all of these kinds of things. So it's like, how can we define practical steps for people who are in those workplaces, who are there to safeguard children, including the parents, but also in school settings as well, to block as much of this content as possible?
Yeah, I mean, you raise a great point, which is this suggestion to use ad blockers. They have limited use, meaning on mobile browsers, it's much difficult to have this ad blocker add-ons or extensions. And most people, so one of the things about our study's limitation is that it's about websites, and most of us and most children use apps now, in which it's impossible to block ads. So you cannot block ads on TikTok, you cannot block ads on Instagram. So this like more closed, more controlled, fenced like worlds, there's a big problem. Like a web is still open, meaning you use like a browser that is sort of open source. You can customize it by adding these ad blockers or extensions. In mobile apps, it's not possible, unfortunately. So it's a bit, not very bright in terms of the more we are moving to mobile. But, so there are some research on, for example, ad blocker usage, which is going up. I think for like Europe and US, it's around 30–40% of the users do use ad blockers. On Android, I think you can still install some tracking protection or ad blocking software that will maybe block some ads in some apps. But so for all the practitioners, teachers, etc. I mean, I don't have a clear answer. Meaning, just I think the goal of our study is that to at least show that there's a problem, that we should, take steps to address it. Because really, it's hard. It's an obscure, huge but obscure ecosystem. Like here is the ads you see, I don't see them. The ads I see, you don't see them. So there's a weird perspective problem. So we should push more on maybe also both regulation and also the technical measures to pressure companies to do better in terms of filtering. Yeah. I'm sorry, maybe this wasn't a satisfactory answer, but there's also limited effect we have on these companies in overall. So regulation is somehow necessary in that regard.
You mentioned about ad blockers, which is, I use them as well. One of the things, you just mentioned about Chrome, that if you're not logged in, it's going to serve you with non-personalized content. However, what Chrome is doing is they're introducing something called Manifest v3, which breaks ad blockers.
Yeah, already broke, yeah.
Sorry, what again?
So there's all these ad blockers, they are browser extensions run on the browser. So browser like Chrome, Firefox provides this platform. And Chrome, in the last 2–3 years, moved to a new model, basically breaking this, platform that's used by ad blockers, making it more difficult to block ads and block tracking by these ad blocker browser extensions. So now browser extensions like, for example, uBlock Origin, they don't work anymore with Chrome. So they have more like a light alternatives they released. But so basically Chrome made it more difficult to block ads, block tracking. And so they have some excuses like, okay, this is better for performance, etc. So I don't want to make direct connection that Google is an ad company and they broke this, so really not. But this happened. But still all these ad blockers still work to some extent. It's just they have their work is much harder now, and they have more limited effectiveness, let's say.
Let me ask the last question, and then if you have more questions, we can take them. So which browser and which ad blockers would you recommend us to use?
Okay. So I'm a big fan of uBlock Origin. Any uBlock Origin users here? Yay! So this is like developed by an independent developer, and they are really, really good at their work. So add uBlock Origin, and uBlock Origin doesn't work on Chrome because of this change in what's called Manifest v3. So I try to use Firefox, but most of the time, so I switch between two browsers. But if I use Chrome-based browser, I use what's called Chromium. So this is like a more open source and unbranded version of Google Chrome browser. So Firefox and Chromium for me. And on mobile, we have more options like DuckDuckGo. Some people use Brave. It has built-in tracking protection. So now actually there are now more browsers coming on like Arc, etc. But so my go-to are Firefox and Chromium, and sometimes DuckDuckGo on mobile.
I think Brave has this way of blocking ads, even if it's on YouTube and you're viewing it via YouTube, it's going to block it.
Yeah.
So I think it's in fact it was built for that, for privacy.
Yeah.
Both on mobile and on system.
Yeah.
Right. Let's thank you. Gunesh, you're in Manchester until Friday noon?
Mm-hmm.
So if you wanna have a chat with him, one-to-one meetings, he's very happy.